What if humans never invented clothes? Millions of years ago, humans didn't wear clothes at all. And surprisingly, they didn't need them. Because the earth was a very different place. No clothes. No problem. The African sun wasn't their enemy. It was their home. Every morning, survival began again. Finding food was never easy. Sometimes, there was nothing to eat. But giving up was never an option. Survive or disappear. Danger could appear without warning. A single mistake could cost a life. But humans had one powerful weapon. They never gave up. That simple decision changed human history forever. Humans didn't win because they were strong. They survived because they adapted. Every day, they learned something new. The land itself became their teacher. They watched every animal and copied what worked. Nature was their first school. One lesson changed everything. The human body was built for endurance, not for speed, but for lasting longer than anyone else. The longer the chase, the greater the human advantage became. Persistence hunting. Humans became the greatest endurance hunters on Earth, not because they were stronger, but because they were smarter. Nature had prepared them perfectly. They didn't need clothes yet. But then, something slowly began to change. The weather became unpredictable. The nights became colder. For the first time, humans began to shiver. Something that once protected them had suddenly become a weakness. Sweat was no longer enough. Humans searched for shelter. Caves protected them from the freezing wind. But caves couldn't travel with them. They needed protection they could carry. A new problem needed a new solution. Then, humans noticed something unusual. The animals weren't freezing. Their fur was protecting them. Humans finally understood. Fur equals warmth. They carefully removed the animal's skin. At first, it wasn't clothing. It was simply protection. For the first time, humans stayed warm. The first clothes were never about fashion. But humans didn't stop there. They learned that shape mattered. They created something that could move with them. A simple idea had changed human survival forever. Clothes were born to survive. With clothes, humans could go where they never could before. The world suddenly became much bigger. Clothes were not just protection. They were the key to human expansion. Clothes changed everything. A tiny invention had unlocked a massive future. Humans were no longer just surviving. The first clothes created a new human world. But humans didn't stop at simply wearing animal skins. They wanted those animal hides to fit better. Every small improvement made survival a little easier. Soon, humans discovered something even more important. Animal tendons became the world's first thread. For the first time, humans stitched pieces of animal hide together. Every stitch made them warmer. Soon, everyone wanted better clothing. Innovation had begun. Different lands demanded different clothes. Some humans covered their hands to survive the freezing cold. Others protected their feet. Every new idea solved another problem. One problem, one new invention. Human creativity had finally awakened. Soon, sewing became a skill. The stronger the stitches, the longer the clothes lasted. Some people became better makers than hunters. A new skill was born. For the first time, humans created something with their own hands that nature had never made. Soon, every tribe started making clothes differently. Some designs kept people warmer. Others were lighter, perfect for warmer lands. Different land, different clothes. Humans were no longer copying nature. They were improving it. Then, something unexpected happened. Not because it was useful, but because it looked different. For the first time, clothes were more than survival. Without realizing it, humans had invented self-expression. Soon, feathers were no longer enough. Bones became necklaces. Shells became ornaments. Clothes were becoming identity. And this was only the beginning, because soon, clothes wouldn't just protect people, they would define them. Soon, people could recognize a tribe just by looking at their clothes. Clothing had become a silent language. Before words, clothes told the story. Clothes had their own language. Without saying a single word, everyone already knew who you were. The best hunters started dressing differently. The wisest elders had their own unique appearance. Even children wanted to look like the heroes they admired. Clothes showed who you were. For the first time, clothing created social status. Soon, people wanted their clothes to stand out even more. Nature became humanity's first paint box. Every color began to tell a story. Colors had meaning. Without realizing it, humans had invented symbols. One symbol meant a great hunter. Another symbol meant a respected leader. Clothing had become a badge of honor. Symbols created status. For the first time, people wanted to earn the right to wear certain decorations. Soon, clothing became part of every important ceremony. Special clothes were saved for life's biggest moments. Parents passed these traditions to their children. Traditions were born. Clothing connected generations. Soon, celebrations became more colorful than everyday life. The best clothes were saved for the biggest moments. Even love found its place in clothing. Clothes had become emotion. Without realizing it, humans had invented fashion. What started as protection became tradition. What became tradition slowly became identity. Survival became culture. And thousands of years later, we still wear clothes for many of the same reasons. From survival to identity to fashion, one simple invention changed humanity forever. For thousands of years, animal skin was enough. But humans never stopped looking for something better. One simple plant would change history forever. The first fabric started with a plant. Humans had discovered natural fibers. At first, the fibers broke apart easily. Then, someone twisted the fibers together. Suddenly, everything changed. The first thread was born. That tiny thread would eventually connect the entire world. But one thread wasn't enough. Then, someone crossed one thread over another. A simple pattern became the first weaving. The first fabric was created. Humanity had finally created cloth. But was cloth actually better than animal skin? Animal skin was heavy, but woven cloth was light, flexible, and comfortable. Lighter, stronger, better. The future of clothing had officially begun. Then, humans discovered something even softer than wild fibers. It was called cotton. Cotton was lighter, softer, and easier to wear. Cotton changed everything. Soon, entire villages began growing cotton instead of hunting for clothing. But cotton wasn't the only discovery. People discovered flax and even sheep's wool. Now, humans had choices. More materials, more possibilities. For the first time, making clothes became a real profession. Soon, entire civilizations were built around cloth. Ancient Egypt mastered the art of linen. Across the world, India became famous for cotton. Different lands, different fabrics. Clothing had become one of humanity's greatest inventions. Then, one discovery became more valuable than gold. It came from a tiny silkworm. Inside its cocoon was an incredible secret. Silk was born, the softest fabric the world had ever seen. Everyone wanted silk, but only China knew its secret. The secret was guarded for hundreds of years. But eventually, silk began its journey across the world. The Silk Road was born. Silk connected civilizations without a single war. The Silk Road carried more than silk, it carried ideas. Every journey introduced a new style. Fashion was traveling faster than ever before. Fashion had no borders. For the first time, clothing united the world. But loose cloth still had one big problem. Humans needed a way to hold everything together. Then, someone sharpened a tiny bone. The first needle was created. For the first time, clothes could be stitched perfectly. But stitching alone wasn't enough. Someone had another simple idea. The first button was born. Buttons changed clothing forever. Now, clothes finally fit the human body. Soon, making clothes became a full-time job. Tailors became some of the most respected craftsmen. Clothing was no longer just survival, it became beauty. Fashion had arrived. People no longer dressed only for protection, they dressed to express themselves. Soon, clothing became a symbol of power. Kings were the finest fabrics money could buy. Ordinary people dreamed of dressing like royalty. Fashion became status. From prehistoric animal skins to royal silk robes, humanity's journey had only just begun. Every piece of clothing carries thousands of years of human history. Every thread connects us to our ancestors. Because someone refused to give up. Every invention began with a single idea, and one idea changed the entire world. From survival to civilization to fashion, clothes didn't just protect humanity. They helped build the human story. And that story is still being written today, because the next invention could belong to you. But this was only one invention. Human history is full of unbelievable discoveries, and we've only explored one of them. The story never ends. Which invention should we uncover next? Tell us in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to support the channel. Subscribe, and continue exploring human history with us. Because history has thousands of incredible stories still waiting to be discovered.